Hey folks, Brian here, your honest mechanic. Today we're looking into a hot topic that can get quiet, confusing. Transmission flushes. Are they necessary? Should you get one, or should you stick to a simple fluid change? Buckle up because I am about to clear the air on this one. Before we get started, if you find this info helpful, please do me a solid and press that like button. And if you want more straight-talking mechanic advice, subscribe to the channel. Now, let's get down to business. You've probably heard people say, never get a transmission flush on a high-mileage car, or maybe your dealership's trying to sell you on a flush every 30,000 miles. So what's the real deal? First off, let's break down the difference between a flush and a change. A transmission fluid change is pretty simple. You drop the pan, drain out what you can, replace the filter if it has one, and put in new fluid. You'll typically get about 35 to 50% of the old fluid out this way. A flush, on the other hand, uses a machine to force all the old fluid out and pump new fluid in. Sounds great, right? Well, not so fast. Here's the thing. Transmission flushes get a bad rap because people often use them as a Hail Mary when their transmission's already on its last legs. If your transmission's slipping or making weird noises, a flush isn't going to magically fix that. In fact, it might make things worse. Why? Well, in older, neglected transmissions, you've got years of built-up gunk and debris. That crud can actually help seal worn parts. Flush it all out and suddenly those worn parts are exposed. Next thing you know, you're shopping for a new transmission. But here's where it gets tricky. If you've been maintaining your transmission regularly from day one, a flush can be beneficial. It gets rid of all the old fluid, which means better lubrication and cooling for your transmission. So what should you do? Here's my honest advice. If you've got a newer car, or you've been good about maintenance, a flush every 50,000 to 100,000 miles isn't a bad idea. Just make sure it's done by someone who knows what they're doing. For older cars, or if you're not sure about the maintenance history, stick with regular fluid changes. Do it every 30,000 to 90,000 miles, depending on transmission type. Yeah, you're not getting all the old fluid out, but you're also not risking a catastrophic failure. Here's a pro tip. If you're worried about not getting enough old fluid out with a regular change, you can do a series of changes. Do one change, drive for a few hundred miles, then do another. Repeat this a few times, and you'll have replaced most of the fluid without the risks of a flush. Remember, the most important thing is to do something. I've seen too many people ignore their transmission fluid altogether, and that's a surefire way to end up with a hefty repair bill. Now, let me tell you about a customer I once had. Guy comes in with a 2010 Toyota Camry, 150,000 miles on the clock. Says the dealer told him he needs a transmission flush. I asked him if he'd ever changed the fluid before. Nope, he says. It's lifetime fluid. Let me tell you, there's no such thing as lifetime fluid. Unless by lifetime they mean lifetime of the transmission, which will be a lot shorter if you never change the fluid. I recommended a simple fluid change for this guy. We dropped the pan, replaced the filter, and put in fresh fluid. The old stuff was pretty dark, but not terrible. A week later, he called to say the car was shifting smoother than it had in years. The moral of the story? Regular maintenance beats last-minute heroics every time.